But I've always wanted to interview him. He's never agreed to interview, but I'm going to ask him like some very specific questions about gay sex and see if he can even answer. I doubt he even knows.
Where does...
Yeah, no, totally.
I'm sorry, what? What was that? That's Tucker Carlson, of course, with Michael Knowles talking about which politician? Well, of course, it's former South Bend mayor turned Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, who is out and proud gay man. In the eyes of Tucker and Michael Knowles, it's all an act. He's faking it.
I'll give you a Pete Buttigieg. I don't know Pete Buttigieg.
The fake gay guy?
I have a friend who thinks he's a fake gay. Or is his favorite
my
conspiracy
gay
theory.
producer was always like, he's not gay.
I'm Mediaite editor Colby Hall, and Tucker is really good about saying crazy things that get attention. And what crazier thing can you say about a politician than he's acting like he's gay and that he wants to ask specific questions about gay sex? But let's turn back first, right? First of all, Michael Knowles is a controversial figure in the conservative world. Why? Well, he was temporarily banned from YouTube. He's said things that were pretty blatantly homophobic. And then during a 2023 CPAC convention, had this to say about transgenderism.
There can be no middle way in dealing with transgenderism. It is all or nothing. Transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely.
So clearly, Michael Knowles, is a big name in sort of the extreme right-wing circles for being sort of a culture warrior and being against gender identity. And well, I think trans athletes playing in sports is sort of universally derided as like not a good idea. Saying that all transgenderism should be gotten rid of, pretty controversial and hateful, depending upon your experience with anyone you might know who's legitimately trans. At any rate, the context of this conversation started when Michael Knowles laid out his, big picture explanation of how the world came to be today when it comes to feminism, LGBTQ rights, all the way up to trans. Let's let him explain.
But now we've fallen into the opposing error, which is to say, actually, the material world has nothing to do with who you really are. Your body has nothing to do with who you really are. Your true self is this purely immaterial thing. So if you're a man, you can really be a woman or what have you. And those are opposing errors that oppose the real dignity of the human person, who is both spirit, soul, and body.
I'm sorry, that didn't really make much sense. That was like someone trying to impress you with big words, but if you actually diagram and parse the words that are being said, it sounds vaguely intellectual and interesting, but really makes very little sense. But I'm curious how Tucker Carlson took that.
Interesting. Do you think that the fact that people live their lives digitally has allowed them to imagine that the body has no significance?
Precisely. And this is the point that I think a lot of people have not made, which is that, of course, the trans ideology is in many ways deader than disco at this point. The Democrats are running away from it.
Are they?
I think so. They're downplaying it. It really hurt them in 2024. I think they realized we reached peak sexual madness in 2023. They at least have to publicly back off.
Interesting. And it's the digital world. Now, I think a lot of us are isolated and disconnected from the real world because of our sudden addiction to smartphones. I've written about it. I think it's a real issue. But to lend it directly to, identity politics and sort of the disconnection from the mind to the corporate, it allows for Michael Knowles to make his larger point.
How did we get to that place? You could say, well, it begins with feminism. The idea that a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. Men and women are the same. Goes into the LGBT movement, which says men and women are the same. Goes into gay marriage, so-called, which says men and women are the same. So 2 men and 2 women are the same as a man and a woman. Leads into transgenderism, a man can be a woman. Okay, I see that through line. But just think about the technological aspect. If I live my life on this little portal to hell that's in my pocket.
It is a portal to hell.
All day long I'm sitting
exactly where it goes.
If that's where I live in my own perception, then my body really doesn't matter that much, does it? I'm not like the biggest, Achilles in the world, right? I'm not some hulking Adonis. I'm not an athlete, but it doesn't really matter. I just live in this virtual world. So is it so crazy to think that your body doesn't matter at that point?
So this was a 2-hour interview, and that was kind of the pretext that give you a sense of kind of the conversation that they were having. Inevitably, they turned to how the world has evolved, more recently under the Trump administration. Knowles suggests strongly that people behave only because they're incentivized that way, right? People do what they do because they're rewarded for it. And who does he use as an example?
We're always told, it's all just got to be kind of organic from the culture and the people, and that's politics is purely downstream of culture and whatever. I have a little more of a classical political view of that. I think people respond to incentives.
Well, that's exactly right.
When you mention these institutions, I think, and Trump is very good at this, beating up Harvard, I think was a brilliant political attack. You see some of that in Florida, taking in some of the universities. It's happening around the country.
I think it is crazy to think that your body doesn't matter. And I don't think that really is an issue. In my experience, people that are identify as trans and identify in a different gender way is legit, right? And to suggest it's because you're too online or the ephemeral nature of meaning has gone away is a huge stretch. And I think the point of that is really to dismiss anyone who has legit gender dysmorphia. This is all, again, pretext to get to the Mayor Pete part.
I'll give you a Pete Buttigieg. I don't know Pete Buttigieg.
The fake gay guy?
I have a friend who thinks he's a fake gay. Or is his favorite
my gay producer is always like, he's not gay.
The fake gay guy. What? It's absurd. He's married, children, openly gay. I mean, the idea here is that forever politicians who may have been closeted pretended to be straight so that they could get elected. Tucker and Michael Knowles are suggesting the opposite is true.
He was with a girl like 20 minutes ago and he wants to be the Democratic nominee. It's like time for a gay guy.
It's playing the long game. I mean, that's going down. Look.
Well, it's suffering for your art. I'll say that.
What a deeply cynical idea that can only come from the brains of deeply cynical people who say crazy over the top stuff only because they know that it gets attention and clicks and something they can monetize. This notion that Pete Buttigieg is pretending to be gay and married a man because it's expedient for his political career, you could say that they're joking, and I think they're pretty deeply nihilistic here. Majority of the audience watching this buys this bizarre idea as plausible, which, again, speaking of the ephemeral nature of meaning, I mean, it degrades logic pretty openly.
Look, just because I don't know him, I know 100 Pete Buttigiegs. I know this character.
Oh, I do too.
And he went to the elite school, and then he goes to McKinsey, and then he does the checks. And I think
then finds some benighted Midwestern town that he can just become mayor of.
Plop, I'm a mayor.
I mean, Mayor Pete is arguably a career politician, but I don't know what that has to do with his sexuality.
I was talking to a big Democrat figure, and he said, say what you will about Pete, he's the greatest careerist we've ever seen. You're mayor of this tiny town, you become the Secretary of Transportation.
No, but of course, but the town kind of sucks. Actually, he didn't do a good job if it didn't have the college there.
I mean, you could criticize Mayor Pete for his careerism and ambition, but that applies to every single politician who's ever taken a cabinet spot in an administration and had national goals, right? I mean, you can say that it's distasteful, but everyone that is in that world is open to this very same criticism.
But I've always wanted to interview him. He's never agreed to interview. But
see, I would love to see a Tucker Carlson, Pete Buttigieg interview, because Tucker's a really good interviewer in his own way, and it would be probably combative. But honestly, Pete Buttigieg is kind of best in class in terms of his rhetorical style takes Obama to another level. He will validate the essence of the question and then pivot to something that is the point that he wants to make. I think that Mayor Pete should sit down with Tucker Carlson. I'm just curious, what Tucker Carlson would ask of him.
I'm going to ask him some very specific questions about gay sex and see if he can even answer. I doubt he even knows.
Oh, so now we know why Mayor Pete doesn't maybe want to sit down with Tucker Carlson. Who would want to get grilled about their private sex acts? That's not something that is an appropriate conversation. And yet Tucker, who's joking, but he's also kind of a joke, right? He's not serious. He's trying to score points by being silly and meaningless. And it's entertaining, but it's kind of dopey. And he knows better.
Where does...
Yeah, no, totally.
I'm
not gay, dude. Stop.
Again, this confidence that, you're not gay? I mean, what are you hiding, Tucker? What if I were to say to you, you're not straight? How's that any different? I wouldn't say that because I don't think it's appropriate, but here we are.
Think about Pete Buttigieg. If we controlled the universities, if we controlled the culture, and if the incentives in the corporations and all of the DEI offices, we can rename them, if all the incentives were not to be America-hating, gay, liberal,
Oh, totally.
The premise sounds vaguely logical, but the idea that all the incentives are America-hating, that's just accepted totally, says Tucker. That's bullshit. That's total bullshit. And, he knows better, but he's not trying to make a salient logical point. He's trying to score points against the left.
Pete Buttigieg, I am convinced, this is purely my gut telling me this. He would be like waving the stars and bars, doing dip, like whatever incentive were there, he would go to it.
I mean, it's kind of a funny image to consider as Mayor Pete as sort of a redneck Dukes of Hazzard watching kind of MAGA flying Southern stars and bars guy. That's a stretch.
And so I think this is where the Trump, a little more muscular view of politics comes in. He says, no, forget about this stupid, everything's just going to be organic. That's never how culture has changed. We're going to go in. I'm going to pummel Harvard into the dirt. I'm going to go in. I'm going to pummel these bureaucracy, the Kennedy Center, whatever. And I'm going to create new incentives such that the best and the brightest and the most ambitious are incentivized to like our country and do good stuff.
Incentivized or bullied, right? Can you bully patriotism? I mean, I think that's his argument. And there's no question that Trump has been effective in his first 9 months in his second term, largely doing Project 2025 stuff, which is very controversial. But the idea that he's sort of using the bully pulpit to change the will of the nation to a more nationalistic point of view, I don't know if that's a thing you want to necessarily praise.
It's totally right. I'm at the inauguration, January 20th, sitting there, and it was indoors so I can't remember why, but I'm sitting there chatting away, of course, sat next to Laura Ingraham, gossiping about Fox, and all of a sudden I look up and there's Jeff Bezos sitting right in front of me.
Yes.
What's Jeff Bezos doing here? And then all these people firing
Tim Cook, Sundar Pichai.
Oligarchs, the hyper-wealthy, multi-billionaire set of political donors that supported Trump in this administration because they're going to benefit from that. It's an oligarchy, right? Tucker and Knowles, who are populists, they seem to have no problem with these really, really rich people getting benefits from powerful people. That's not what a democracy is, which is lost on them. And then Knowles and Tucker make it even clearer what they believe.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right. I noticed all of a sudden after the inauguration, after the election, really, my phone starts ringing from news networks that have never been interested in talking to me before.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, all of a sudden, some of the big corporations that we work with my show, they're more interested in helping us. And, they want to make sure our experience, I said, oh, this is what power is.
Yeah.
And it is incumbent upon statesmen on the happy occasions that they get power from the people, that they actually use it in a good way and make hay while the sun shines.
Power, making hay while the sun shines. And what does that power look like? So far, it looks like massive tax cuts for the super wealthy. And that's oddly not benefiting the majority of viewers that adore what Tucker has to say. And these two dudes are just shamelessly laughing and celebrating the rich getting richer and having more power, meanwhile suggesting that Pete Buttigieg is fake gay because he has political aspirations. If any of that makes sense to you, please explain to me in the comments. Again, I'm Mediaite founding editor Colby Hall. If you want to see more videos like this, please click the like or subscribe button. Thanks for watching.